How do you go about not judging people when they have different convictions than you?
Ooh, that's definitely hard. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the King of Hearts podcast.
Welcome.
If you haven't noticed, or if you're new here, we just had a recent change of scenery for recording. So, welcome to our new podcast studio. This has been, a long time in the making. So, we're excited to finally be here. It's not the final product, but Jake, how does it feel to be outside of our apartment?
Feels great. We talked about this for a long time, but I think you brought up the idea because you're like, we can't work and sleep in the same place. Because I don't know, if you've ever been to our apartment, you know that it's pretty cluttered all the time. And now it's just nice to not see all that random equipment that's really expensive that we can break and we definitely trip over. So this is great to be in this place.
Yes, we feel very blessed to be
Absolutely
outside of our apartment right now. Welcome to the new space. Let us know what you think about it.
We call it the unit.
We call it the unit.
Yes.
So today we have a fun conversation coming up about
Fun's a strong word. It's really not that fun. It's kind of vulnerable. But
podcasts need to be fun to listen to.
yeah, it's true. That's true.
So
it's just difficult, man. We're talking about judgment, not to steal your thunder, but we're talking about judgment. And judgment, I think, is something that I do a lot in my life, whether I realize it or not. Usually the only way to realize it is by someone calling me out, which means that I don't really want to recognize it at first. And then I kind of reflect and I'm like, oh, wow, I am judging people. So yeah, this is a hard thing to talk about, but I think it's something that, most of us do and we don't really say anything.
So when you find yourself judging people, like what usually brings that up? Like when does it typically happen?
It's usually when I feel like someone is doing something that I wouldn't do. To be honest with you, that's the core of it. So it's not necessarily if it's biblically based or not, it's if I would do it or not. So I'm basing what other people do based off of either my own convictions or my own interpretation of what Scripture says. And I think just taking that seed of God and judging that person from the beginning before you even allow yourself to like actually talk to the person about their actions or even reflect and say, is this judgment that I'm doing, is this a Christ-like judgment like Paul calls us to do in 1 Corinthians 5, for example? Or is this something where I'm putting my own preferences and, all of that over like actually like talking to that person. So therefore I'm judging them.
Wow. I think that's cool. I think it kind of shows that judging other people can also have like pride involved, because that sounds like for you it's more self-righteousness that leads to your judgment. So I think that's really interesting how, I feel like other sins build up to, what I'm saying? Like I feel like there's building blocks for sin. I feel like it takes some sin to lead up to other sin. If that makes sense.
Explain in this context of like pride and judgment.
So like in order for you to judge this person, right? Before that could happen, sorry. Yeah. Before that could happen, you had to feel right in your own mind about the thing that you're judging this person for. So that had to happen, and then you're like, oh dude, that person shouldn't be doing that. Does that make sense? Kind of like a building block. I think we talked about this recently. I don't think it was on the podcast. Like about how we commit so many more sins than we really think we do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was referencing with that.
No, I agree. That actually just taught me something. Because the way I view it, for example, is like, let's say you struggle with gossip and I don't, and I've gotten that out of my life, whatever. And you start gossiping and I call you out. There's a chance I could be calling you out, not because gossip is wrong, but it's something that I've conquered and I want to like make sure you know that I've conquered it. And that's like a prideful mindset, which if I'm displaying that to you and communicating that to you, that sort of shows that maybe I wasn't trying to stop my gossip for the right reasons, or maybe I was, but inside my own mind, I got prideful about it. Because rather than being like Jesus and meeting you where you're at with your sin and your gossip and talking bad about people, instead I'm coming off more as the judge and saying, no, why are you doing this? This thing is beatable. I've done it. And by doing that, I'm inserting pride into the equation. And by doing that, like, it's like the Bible says, like, you're not resentful. Like, you don't keep records of wrongs with people that you love. So like, if you're remembering like what this person has done wrong, and you're remembering what you've done right, and you're forcing that on them to try to get them to join you, that's not really like a successful way to help someone. The successful way to help someone is to like meet them where they're at and love on them. And that's something that I don't do well at all. And that shows that there's been a lot of pride in some sins that I've extinguished from my life. And that's definitely a gut check, because it's like, oh gosh, like, how much sin was I actually letting go if I'm just replacing that sin with something that's even deeper in my heart that's hidden away? If anything, it got worse,
I'm trying to think of like what causes me to judge other people. Because I feel like it's a little bit different. I just can't like put into words like the way that I judge people. Have you seen me judge people in some sort of way? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, like what bring up some example just to kind of help me understand myself better.
So tell me the 3 things you're best at in life. What are you good at?
Like what do I actually think I'm
Yeah,
good
what are
at?
you good at? Not like virtues. I'm talking like actual like what do you do for
Skills?
money? Yeah, skills.
Okay, I think I'm good at photography.
Okay.
Oh, should I put photography and like videos
Yeah.
in the same
Sure,
thing?
yeah, go for it.
I think I'm good at photography and videography and video editing. I think so. I'm sure someone's gonna humble me, but
Let's
Sorry.
let's just go with those 3.
Oh, okay.
Let's go with those 3.
Okay.
I think you judge people that are worse than you at those 3 things. And you make fun of them. I do that too with certain things. I'm with you, but I mean, how many times have we like seen someone like doing a bad job at photography and you're like, dude, they suck. What are they doing? What are they doing? You do that all the time.
Okay. I think you're right. That's okay.
Like, why are they taking the picture that way, bro?
Yeah.
Why are they taking? That's weird. They're a beginner. Look at that camera. They're a beginner.
Yeah,
They don't even
okay.
have a good lens.
No.
It just doesn't stop.
You're right. Okay, thank you for that, because I think
You're
you
welcome.
just helped me understand myself a little bit better. Yeah, my judgment definitely comes from things that I think I'm good at. I think everyone else sucks at. You're right. It's hard because it feels like it's so lighthearted, but at the same time, it's like the same thing that you do. So
Yeah. Dude, how many times were we watching a sports game and I'm like, they are terrible at their job. That was a terrible call.
Oh,
I do
yeah.
that all the time. I do that with refs. I do that with commentators all the time.
There will be like some big time sports commentator that clearly is good at their job because they have a job with ESPN or ABC or whatever. Actually, no, I think ABC has all the good ones, right?
I like
Mostly.
CBS the best. But
Okay.
yeah, that's a different
No,
conversation.
but there'll be like this like big time sports anchor, and Jake's like, dude, they suck.
They weren't supposed to do that.
I could do that. Like, okay, Jake.
And in a funny way, I do that with the referees too. Like I promise I saw that call better than you did, even though you were 2 feet away from it. Like I'm weird like that. I think that for things that I'm with you, like for things that I think I'm good at, like because I know in my mind that I have skills at that, I automatically put myself against someone who I see doing it. And it's just like, that's not fair. Like who cares if someone misses a call in sports commentating or in referee? Like everybody's going to make mistakes. And trust me, if I were to go back and listen to my own tapes, I would make that same mistake probably 5 times as much as they did. So just one of those things.
Everyone go listen to the Men in Hoodies
Bro,
podcast.
but do not do that. Because of that, I'm going to go make those videos private because I don't want anyone seeing those clips. But no.
No,
It's hard,
it was
though.
a big part of your life, and it was, and it kind of shaped who you are as a. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it shaped who you are, like when it comes to things like podcasts and the way that you talk about sports.
Like shows?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I feel like it kind of the way that y'all did the podcast was like scream at each other
Pretty much.
or like read off a list like 20 sports teams or something. So I feel like maybe it didn't help you with being a podcaster completely. But like it was a big part of your life, so don't go private at all. I recently, I think I unprivated my TikTok account. I think
You did?
I might have. I
Which
don't
one?
know. Like my main one. I think I did.
The one with all the followers?
Shh. I think I did. I
Okay.
might re-private it just because I don't.
Hey, don't private that. That was a big part of your life.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
Kind of
But
shaped you. Just kidding.
my thing is that like I don't know if I should keep it up just because a lot of the stuff that's on there is, or all the stuff that's on there is before I was a Christian. So it's just all stuff that like doesn't necessarily represent Christ the best. So that's the main reason that I think I have it privated. I might have unprivated it. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, that's definitely a hard thing. Like I assume going back and watching things that you've done that were not when you were saved. Like when you do that, does that bring about, do you start judging yourself when you watch those old clips? Or is it more like, oh, wow, that was cool?
It's probably more shame, I guess.
Got it. Got it. So why did you like unprivate it?
I'm not 100% certain if I unprivated it or not, but I was just applying to do some like freelance like video editing work, like social media stuff, TikTok stuff. So I was like, well, if I want to show off my work, I can't just not show my biggest success on social media to people. So I'll probably reprivate it just because I don't think I feel comfortable with that. Like publicly, it's publicly me not representing Christ in the way that I should. That's the big reason. So
Yeah. If you're feeling more shame about that, I would definitely consider like keeping that away. But okay, what about this? Why would you, if you don't want that to be like your representation at all anymore, and when you watch those you just feel shame, would you rather keep them private or would you rather delete that from your life? Like delete those clips?
Ooh, I don't know.
Because like you're like judging yourself in a way.
I don't know. I think it is cool like that I can go back and show people, the stuff that I did before I was a Christian. I mean, some of the stuff is most of the stuff is harmless. It's just like relatable, like comedy stuff. This one time I went into Walmart, and this is the most like viral video I had on my account. It was a video of me going into the store. I had my mom record me. This was her idea, by the way, so shout out, Mom. I was like, I kind of want to pull some pranks on Walmart employees. And my mom said that I should go to the tampon aisle and ask a worker to help me and say like, hey, my little brother needs some tampons for his nosebleeds. This was my mom's.
That's so bad.
This was my mom's idea. No, it's not bad. I think it's.
Apologize to your mom because you're throwing her under the bus right
No,
now.
I still think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. I think it's her. I think it was her idea. I'm almost certain it was.
You should
her
have just
idea.
accepted that it was your idea.
I'm almost certain it was her idea. I don't know. I love you, Mom, but I'm pretty sure it's her idea. But no, it ended up getting like 2 million views, and it was just a harmless prank. Like I told I told the worker, I told the worker like what I was doing afterwards, and she was fine with it. Like no, I didn't tell her afterwards. She saw the video on TikTok. Someone sent it to her, and then she like DM'd me, and it's like, hey, this is me. And then like I start texting her, and she was cool with it and everything.
Got it.
But
okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a harmless prank, and that was like my most viral thing. But there's other things where like I say curse words, and like I don't do that anymore. And I think it says in James, I think it's in James where it's talking about not having any like filthy language or something like that. Is that right? Is it James? Probably.
I don't remember honestly.
I think it's in James.
That is a verse though.
It's almost a verse. That wasn't a complete verse. Don't quote us on that. No, it's somewhere in James talking about cursing and stuff like that. I know a lot of Christians have their own takes on what those verses mean when it comes to cursing.
Do you think you're your own worst self-critic?
Yeah, you asked me this question like yesterday.
That's crazy. That's crazy that we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what does that look like for you?
Like criticizing myself.
Yeah, like what does it look like for you to unhealthily judge yourself?
Oh, uh, for me, okay, I struggle with comparison a lot in a lot of like aspects of my life. Um, so I think I do struggle with comparing myself to, like, if I'm making something, I'll struggle with comparing myself to what other people are making. Like there's been countless times where like I'll compare our podcast to someone else's podcast. I'll be like, well, we're not doing this, or this, you know.
Mm,
So I think that's probably my biggest struggle when it comes to being my own self critic. Um, because like if you don't have anything to compare to, then you're not going to see anything wrong with what you're making. So I feel like
mm,
most of my criticism comes from either something that I'm creating, like if I'm making a video, like I want to make the best video, and like I'll try
mm.
and beat out the competition. I literally did this today. I'm getting into sports video, like sports hype videos and stuff for like local
Yes, sports
athletes.
guy.
And um, I had someone reach out to me today asking for a video, and I was giving him the price and everything, and I told him like, but I didn't price it too high because he's gonna be my first paid client. I've done one free, but he's gonna be my first paid. And I literally texted him and I was like, "Yeah, man, don't worry. This is no problem for me. The only reason the price is so low is because I have to work my way up. But I've been editing videos for 4 years. I'm just gonna beat out the competition." Like it was just straight up, just like
Mm.
pride and then also comparison at the
Mm.
same time. Um,
Okay, so I think a lot of people would wonder why that's unhealthy because a lot of times like comparison drives you to be better because you're like, okay, that person's that good. Or like, let's say for basketball, for example, like if I see someone like perfect a move, I'm like, okay, why wouldn't I want to do that? So I'll go out and like try to be better than them at that specific thing. So like that would drive me to be better. So like how for you does it cross the line of being like a healthy thing to where you're just driving to be better because you see other people's examples and then becoming prideful of
mhm.
trying to beat them?
I think that the problem that comes with that is like your heart posture behind it. Like I feel like there's a big difference between trying to like improve and like do your best and then just trying to beat everyone else, you know? I feel like I feel like that's the problem. Does that make sense? I don't know how to explain it in the right way. Like do
Yeah,
you
it makes sense.
yeah. I think it comes down to like why you're trying to get better at something. Like are you trying to get better to impress other people, or are you trying to get better because like, you desire to be good at something, and you know, you don't want to be lazy. Like he tells us not to be lazy.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so I feel like if you're not constantly improving in something, then you are being lazy in some sort of way. Um, but at the same time, if you're getting better at something for the wrong reasons, I don't think that's good either.
If you're using comparison as the driving force,
Mm-hmm.
that is the easiest avenue for envy to sneak in
Mm,
because you become resentful when others start doing great things. And then that drives you to an unhealthy level of like I said, comparison. Like in the business world, for example, like a lot of people resent each other because this person got the job over them, or they didn't get the promotion, or someone else has a way better job and they're just sitting down in a 9 to 5. Like stuff like that, you get resentful if you compare. But like you said, if your standard is God, right? If you're trying to please God and work for Him, I think you're going to be satisfied wherever you are because you know that God's got you there for a reason, and you can't like allow that envy of other people to make you become like an unhealthy self-critic in a way, because then you're going to be telling yourself, why am I not there? Why am I not as good? Why am I not successful enough? And those are human standards, and human standards obviously don't satisfy, right? Human goals don't satisfy. So that's a very unhealthy thing. And I think that's honestly where I get a lot of times when I see people close to me doing things that I'm not, is I'm like, oh man, like we were right along the same alleyway and look at what he's doing. Look at what she's doing. And I just get bitter at myself. And I think I really struggle with viewing myself in a very judgmental perspective because I do have the mindset of trying to grow all the time. But because of that, I think when I make it unhealthy, I'm literally nitpicking everything I say and everything I do to a point where if we have a 5-minute conversation and I'm walking to my car afterwards, the entire walk to my car, I am rehearsing that conversation in my mind, saying, "Oh man, if I said this, he probably would have gave this response. If I wouldn't have said that, maybe they wouldn't have like faked a laugh, and judged me." Like so, like all that stuff. When you put so much pressure on yourself and view yourself in that light, you just like kill yourself with overwhelming expectations.
Yeah. Uh, I'll say this. This is something I realized today. Having that mindset, like, if I did this, then this wouldn't have happened. Uh, I realized today that you never know what's going to happen with anything.
No.
I can't say exactly why. I wish I could, but things never work out exactly the way you plan them to. So there's no point of even planning stuff like that. Because you talked about this, like, you don't always struggle with like looking back on it. You also struggle with like looking forward. Like,
Yeah.
here's what I'm gonna do. Like, here's how this is gonna go. Yeah. I just wanted to say that. Like, I realize that however you think it's gonna go, it's not gonna go that way at all. So.
And if you plan it, you're not allowing the Holy Spirit to be involved. Not at all. Because it's not like in a situation where, okay, there's a verse that says this. It says, if you're put on trial in front of a court, don't prepare what you want to say. Because if you do that, you're not allowing the Holy Spirit to speak through you. And if you allow the Holy Spirit to speak through you, you're going to say exactly what you need to say. So by going ahead and preparing for that moment, in reality, you're like backtracking. Like you're getting worse. You're being more unprepared because you could have a completely different avenue in your mind of a situation that's going to happen. And then it doesn't go that way and you're freaking out. So I think it's very important. And this is something that I've been learning in my reading and like reading other books as well. It's important to look at yourself in a non-judgmental stance because then you can understand, okay, I'm not mad at myself. I'm not judging myself. How does God view what I'm doing? And how do my tendencies lead to bad things happening? How do my tendencies hurt other people? Not looking at a situation saying, oh, I hurt that person. I feel terrible. This is awful. I need to be better. But instead saying, okay, what did I do to hurt that person? Like, what about my emotions and my personality didn't connect with that person to a point where I hurt them? And then you can actually change rather than just shaming yourself and trying to do better the next time. Because that never works for me. I end up hurting myself and others more by just hurting myself and not actually processing what I could have done better.
So, like, what you're saying is, like, the harder that you are on yourself, the worse you're going to act towards other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've used this word twice already, but you resent yourself when you do that. You do. You hate a lot of the things that you do.
Yeah.
Because you highlight 5% of the things you're doing wrong in a conversation, and you had 95% right, but you just said some things maybe you shouldn't have said. But if you're focusing on the bad all the time, of course you're going to treat other people bad,
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, yeah, I judge myself a lot, and it's a big problem. So I'm glad that we were able to talk about this. How do you think I've judged you in like how we've operated when we're vulnerable about sins? Because I think this is a reason that we're talking about this. It's like, how do you think I go about those situations?
You want me to tell the story?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, I'll look to the camera. So basically, this happened, was it last week or a few days ago? I admitted to Jake that I've been struggling with lust. And this is something that, I've been trying to overcome for a while now. But at the same time, I kind of stopped trying, and that's when it starts to get bad.
Yeah.
And Jake is like, Jake's tired of me, like, is that fair to say? Jake's tired of me like complaining about it, but not really doing anything about it, I think is fair to say.
It's not that you're not doing anything about it. There's effort there. Sometimes it's just like, like there's only effort at certain times, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying my complete hardest, I guess. So
This
So
is really vulnerable too. I
yeah.
like this.
So right after I say that to Jake, or like while I'm telling Jake the story, I think, or no, right when I finished telling him the story, he like just gave me a hug, I think, and while he was hugging me, he stole my phone. Is that what happened? I'm pretty sure you took.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm pretty sure you gave me a hug because you know I like hugs, just so you could steal my phone.
That wasn't why, but I mean, your phone was there, so I was like, I'm gonna take it.
Jake knows that I hate when people take my phone. So he took my phone and went into his room and locked his door. And
I'm sorry, this is not funny.
it's not. He steals my phone all the time because he knows I hate it. And so I'm at a point where like if Jake's around me, the second he leaves, I'm double checking, making sure I have my phone. Like, yeah, it's over there. Okay.
I don't have your phone.
So it's gotten to a point where like I'm literally instantly, the second that you walk away from me, I'm like searching for my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And my phone was gone. So I go to my MacBook, I ring my phone. It's in Jake's locked bedroom. And he knows my password and everything. And in my mind, I'm just like, I'm just angry. I'm just angry that Jake would steal my phone to try and like punish me for giving into lust. And I go to his door and I start banging on it. I'm like, Jake, this isn't gonna do anything. What did I say? I said a lot of stuff.
The one thing I remember that you said is a little bit of context too. For me, this, how do I say this the right way? This method would help me. That's important to say. So because of that, I did it to you. And you came to my door, and after, a couple minutes of fighting, let's just call it like heated debate. Let's call it that. After a couple minutes of heated debate, you say, Jake, you think this is going to help me, but in reality, it's going to make me hate you. And that just clicked. When you said that, everything clicked. And I was like, I would hate if I was going through something and Chris did something that I hate to get me to stop. See, like taking my phone, that'd be fine. But if you did something that directly made me mad and that makes me uncomfortable because I sinned, that would make me want to sin even more and resent you for it. Like, so that just made it clicked in my mind. So when you said that, it really helped. So,
yeah. So, anyways, why did we just tell that whole story? What led up to that?
I was not taking the role of a helper and an encourager and a lover. You don't get over your lustful temptations by someone yelling at you to stop them. You get over them by accepting the grace of God and by understanding that you can't fight it on your own. So by doing that, I'm taking more of the role of a Pharisee, judging you for your sin, rather than saying, Chris, God loves you. His grace and his goodness and his mercy is continually chasing after you, and he's never going to give up no matter how many times you sin. And that's why you need to stop. So if I'm trying to place myself and insert myself in the role of God, you're going to have the mindset, oh, wow, I can't do this sin anymore because Drake's going to get mad at me. I can't do that. And if that's the case, then you're always going to give in because I'm not a standard that's worth living up to. But if your mindset is, God, I'm doing this because, he died on the cross for my sins, even though one sin was enough to send Adam and Eve to hell and be justified for it. But instead, he's forgiving me for this sin that I constantly go back to. And because of that, you're doing it for the right reasons now. It's in the light. There's grace, there's joy, there's peace, even in the midst of brokenness. And by judging you and using my pride and saying, I've gotten over it, so he needs to do it, because of that, it may set you back even more than actually grow closer to God. And because of that, our relationship is fractured.
Yeah, that's good. That's funny. That's a podcast name. I think it's like, whoa, that's good. Whose podcast is that?
Is that Sadie Robertson?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Sadie Robertson Huff. My bad.
Yeah. Is it whoa, that's good, or that's good? I don't know. Something like that.
I don't know.
But no, every time I say that, it's when I'm like trying to think of something else to say.
No, you're good. So like, how did that make you feel? Like straight up, like when I take the role of a judge and then become a Pharisee rather than Christ, because that's not fair at all, and that's really bad trait.
Yeah, well, obviously it made me mad. I'm sure I expressed that with my words. Like Cursing isn't something that like typically is like it's not like a daily thing, I don't think. It's kind of little tiny bit worse, but it's not like something that I struggle with on a daily basis, I don't think. And I just like straight up started like cursing. Like
Yeah.
I, looking back, I feel horrible, but that's kind of, I don't think we've ever been in, this sounds so stupid. I'm sure it probably sounds stupid, but I don't think we've been in like an argument that heated before. And I think back with my old friendships, that's just kind of how things were handled, is just like yelling at each other and like cursing at each other, and just, that's just kind of how things went. So I think I kind of felt like I was put back into my past for a little bit when that happened. So
Mm.
yeah.
And that's not fair. It's not fair of me at all to do. So it reminds me of the story in John 8 where Jesus walks up on the woman that was caught in sexual adultery, like having sex with another man when she had a husband. And these Pharisees were picking up stones to throw at this woman because she had broken Levitical law. And Jesus got there and they asked him, what were you going to do? What are you going to do to this woman? And he said, if you are without sin, cast the first stone. Those without sin, cast the first stone. And all of them knew that they had sinned, so they dropped their stones and they went away. And I saw an Instagram post the other day, and I sent it to you, replacing the woman with like a man in the church parking lot. And someone had caught him having adultery. So they brought this man to the pastor's house, and all the men were ready just to like, get on this guy. And the pastor said, well, if any of you haven't sinned, say the first thing, get on to him. And all of them left and drove their cars home. So like when you're in a situation where you're judging someone for something that they're doing that you haven't done, instead think of that story with Jesus and that woman and replace your situation with that. And rather than casting the first stone, judging them and making them feel horrible about a sin they're already convicted about, instead take the role of Christ and say, I love you. You're like, Jesus has forgiven your sins, and go on and do it no more. Like, I'm willing to bet that woman did that, And
Yeah.
she wouldn't have done that if she would have been killed by the Pharisees. Her soul would have been crushed, if not her body. So that's a scary thing to think that, man, how often do I put myself in a role of a Pharisee? Because I view a Pharisee as a terrible person. That man was a complete hypocrite. But how many times do I take that role? And that's a scary thing.
I love that you mentioned that story about the woman, because I was thinking about this earlier, like how the Bible, it doesn't give us like modern day, just like straight up, like if you have a question, like here's the answer. Because if it did that, then there'd be no reason for us to like search and like ask God questions and like try and figure things out and like actually read. Like God gives us, like, I feel like he gives us the answers to problems like that through old stories. And they just kind of, through time, like they change, of course. Like, obviously, not in the US, not right now. Like, no one's like stoning people, but like you said, like people are like just doing stuff like that, going to the pastor and like,
Barking on social media.
yeah, stuff like that. So I was thinking about that earlier today, for something else. Like, I know, actually, literally for the exact same thing. I was like, when you sent me that's okay. That makes a lot more sense. When you sent me that thing, you sent me it today. It wasn't any other.
It wasn't
day.
yesterday?
No, it was today.
Oh, wow.
You sent me that thing today.
Okay.
And that made me think, like, wow, the Bible, like, it really tells us like every sin that happens. It's a little bit different, things change and evolve. So yeah, that's it.
How do you go about not judging people when they have different convictions than you? So it's not necessarily a sin, what you're doing or what they're doing, but you just feel differently about it.
Ooh, that's definitely hard. It's hard. It's hard when there's things that aren't clear cut. But but at the same time, I feel like it, like, like leans more one way than the other.
Okay.
Like, I feel
Like, give me an example.
like profanity. A lot of Christians think that cursing like isn't a sin, like as long as you're not saying it in a certain way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and they'll try and they'll use scripture to back it up, but at the same time, like it really can go one way or the other. And I feel like for things like that, if you don't see something being like 100% clear, I feel like you would just take the safer route. But if they say they're not convicted about it, then I don't know. I feel like it's not my place to judge them for that. What do you think?
This is hard. This is hard.
It was your question.
Huh?
It was your question.
Yeah, I know. I had a situation with a friend recently. Like I was actually a couple months ago, where we went to an event and he got like a beer, and I am not used to that at all, and it's something that I'm very convicted about. And when I saw that, he says that my face got white, and I was like really like thrown off by this. Like, why would this guy be doing that? And we actually talked about this past weekend, and he apologized to me for not like making sure that it was something that I was comfortable with. And instead he just did it. And he used his liberty. He more utilized his liberty over loving me well. Because that stuff, like, I'm better with that now. Like, that's fine. Like, you can do that in front of me, whatever. If you're not convicted, just obviously don't get drunk or whatever and be smart. But at the time, I was very uncomfortable with stuff like that. And then I apologized to him, and I was like, man, I'm sorry for judging you before I even like asked like why you're drinking it. And like, he likes the taste of alcohol. He does. I don't know many people like that, but he does, And I took the role of a judge instead of just talking to him about his convictions. And through talking about convictions, you come to a better understanding. So I really respect him for, like apologizing for that and recognizing that, hey, maybe it's not smart to do that around like certain people. So I think if you don't take the role of a judge and the person who's exercising their liberty doesn't put that liberty over loving another believer, you can actually have a good conversation about it and leave better, leave smiling. Like we talked about it, we both like apologized for that, and it was months ago, and we're just like both like smiling ear to ear because we're just like coming together as believers, and it's like putting this thing to rest. And so that's how I've like understood like how we can not judge others' convictions. Literally just ask them. And if it is something that's sinful that someone is doing or something sinful that I'm doing, like I feel like through a conversation like that, you'll realize, hey, like maybe I could be smarter about this. So yeah, just calm down. I think that's one thing. Calm down and stop playing God. Let him do his job,
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of situations in my life that were kind of like that, and it was kind of cool to see you guys like talk about those things, because I remember when you were in that stage, and like we had conversations about it and everything. So I think it's cool seeing how you've grown and how I've grown too, because of it. So,
do you remember how I reacted when we had wine for communion at that
oh my
wedding?
goodness,
Yeah, I was freaking out.
Okay, hold on, tell a little bit of the story.
No, you tell the story.
What?
You got it.
Okay, so me and Jake went to go film a wedding. Long story, but we went to go film a wedding in Birmingham, Alabama, at like a small church, and we think it was like a branch of a Catholic church.
It was a lot of Catholicism, yeah.
Yeah. It was very what's the word, like
It was formal.
not formal,
Traditional?
more traditional.
Okay.
Traditional. Yeah, that's definitely a good
It was a
word.
great church.
It
And that was one of
was.
the best weekends ever, but like, it was a
I don't
traditional
know.
church.
It's just, yeah, we're not used to that.
Yeah.
Like the teaching style is completely different. The worship is completely different. Communion. So we came on communion day, I guess, and they give us like actual like bread. Like we go to a big church. I mean, I'm sure most churches have like actual bread. A lot of like smaller churches, I'm pretty sure have like actual like loaves of bread that they give you. So we're not used to that. We're used to little plastic tubs with like the smallest little crunchy
and
piece
some grape juice.
Yeah, I mean, hey, but you know, Jesus took like 2 loaves of bread and turned it into like 1 billion. So was it 2
We'll
or
go
5?
with that. Yeah.
Was it 5 or 2?
Yeah, it was.
That was 5. Yeah. So you know, I'm sure maybe that little cracker multiplied in our stomachs or something. But we're used to that on one side, and then like a little ounce of grape juice on the other side. It's grape juice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're used to that. But no, we went to this church, and they gave us like a cup of actual like red wine and a piece of an actual loaf of bread. And Jake is just like freaking out. He's like freaking out. He's like, "Am I allowed to do this?" It was the funniest thing ever.
And then the photographer Sam looked over and he's like, "It's okay. I promise it's okay." And that is not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. For some reason, I didn't feel convicted about that. So I guess maybe that was that legalism,
What? Me?
or was that just like confusion?
I don't think it was legalistic because I ended up doing it for the right reasons. Like it was fun, but like beforehand, I was just so uncomfortable. I was like, this is like weird. I've never done this in my life.
Okay.
And it was approaching the line.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
going to do this because it's wrong, and it's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's not wrong at all.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but it was just a really funny. Am I missing something? Is that it?
no, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
stuff like that made me really uncomfortable. But there's growth. We're growing. So
Yeah, but
I also don't like the taste of wine at all. I thought that, like, from what we heard, that was good wine. I just didn't like it. It tastes like medicine.
yeah,
So I don't know. It was weird.
just burns and
Yeah.
leaves a bad aftertaste, and
I don't mind grape juice. I
Yeah.
really don't.
it's okay. The food at the wedding washed it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a smaller wedding, but anyways, I think that we're gonna wrap it up for this week's episode. Jake, do you have anything else to say?
No, but I am glad we talked about this because I'm learning a lot more about myself and my own tendencies as I talk about them.
Me too, brother.
So yeah, I've already said this 100 times. I just gotta stop playing God in my own life and in others' lives. Just surrender and submit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir. Yes,
yes, sir.
sir. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Another week of the King of Hearts podcast. Hopefully next week, maybe this place will look even, I'm not going to say better, but maybe it'll look even more different. We'll see if we have time to work on it because we're going to be busy. But
Yeah. March Madness, baby.
oh, gosh.
March Madness. Chris still has yet to make his bracket, but we're going to get to it. So,
But yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will see you back next week.
peace.